Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my first recap of day one of the World Rapid Championship. This is a 13 round event. We played 5 games today, and there's 2 more games, or 2 more days, 4 games each day for the next 2 days. So, yeah, I have a lot to share. I'm tired. It's 11:12 p.m. New York time. The next round starts tomorrow in just over 12 hours, I guess in about 14 hours from now. So, I'm going to try and keep things brief, but I have a lot of interesting games today. My first time ever playing in the World Rapid Championship. Big shout out to FIDE who gave me a wildcard spot. If you're in New York and you want to watch the event in person, I don't think it's too late to get tickets. There are a lot of fans that came today. Got to sign a lot of autographs and take some selfies with people, so that was cool. But I also got to play in the same venue as all the top GMs, Magnus, Hikaru, Fabiano, list goes on and on. I came into today seated, what was I seated? About 160, I think. I'll have to check. Maybe I'll put a graphic above with initial seeds. But yeah, I'm one of the lowest rated players in the competition. And in round one, I played against Grandmaster Andrei Volokitin with black. And I actually had a little bit of time to prepare for this game because pairings went up maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours before the game. And I actually predicted exactly what we went into. I played the Sicilian. My opponent opted for the Rosalimo. I played this line with pawn d6. And all these moves were on my computer right before the round, including e6. I saw my opponent had 1 game previously with knight f6, and he played d4. But the reason for playing e6 first is that after d4, there's an option here for black, which black wouldn't have if the knight's already committed to f6. And that is to take on f3, inducing g takes f3. If queen takes f3, then black is winning the pawn on d4. And this is what happened in the game. And I blitzed out queen to h4. And there hasn't been too many games in this previously. There's only 3 games in the Lichess Masters database. But it seemed like a really interesting, fun, dynamic line to go into in the first round. And I'll be completely honest, but I was considering playing the Stafford Gambit against this opponent, but I chose not to because I discovered this line. And this is far more reputable than the Stafford, but also pretty aggressive. Black is trying to orchestrate some kingside attack from early on, leaving the tension in the center. My opponent tries to pounce in the center with pawn d5. And I'll admit I wasn't prepared specifically for this move. I'd only checked bishop to e3, and I had seen a game between Sadwani and Adiban, and black got a nice advantage after knight f6. It was knight d2, takes, and then d5. Nice move for black. Yeah, my opponent played d5. I'm out of prep, but I played the most natural move, knight to e5. And now white wants to play f4, but he can't because knight g4, and this is winning for black. A very Stafford Gambit-like idea with attacking f2 and h2. So my opponent played pawn h3 in this position. And I guess I'll leave the annotations on the board. Maybe it will make things more dramatic for the viewers. I didn't know it in the moment, but h3 is not the best move. And in this position, there's a move that I should definitely play, but unfortunately I didn't play. And the move I ended up playing was knight to f6. This was a mistake. What I should have done is realize that because white played h3, white wants to play pawn f4, kick my knight, and I don't have knight g4. So there's only one move for black to effectively stop pawn f4. And that move is g5. I should have played g5, even though it looks weird to just push the g pawn like this without the kingside being developed at all. This would have led to a very comfortable advantage for black. I do have the eval bar here. Yeah, black is slightly better according to the engine, but I think this would be difficult for white to play and very easy for black to play. There's ideas of knight f6, h5, g4, and attacking on the king side. So long story short, I didn't play g5. I played knight f6, and then my opponent played really well. I brought my knight back to g6. He takes f5, and all of the momentum was swaying in white's direction. I didn't really have any attack on the king side. Going forward, castle queen side, I was still trying to keep things sharp. And then karma struck. I played g5, but several moves too late. We see this as a big blunder. I completely missed my opponent's idea here to play knight e4. For some reason, I was expecting knight f3, and then I was going to take, and then d5. And I thought this would be playable. Okay, white's still better according to the engine, but yeah, knight e4 was much stronger, and white actually has a decisive advantage now. My g5 pawn is attacked, and white basically just seizes initiative. I had to take after takes, queen h6, and then pawn h4, very strong move. My g-pawn is pinned, and black is losing material. There's really not much to do here. What did I want to play? I wanted to play bishop e7, but this runs into takes, and f4, and black is getting forked. So I played queen f6, willingly walking into the skewer, and I was kind of hoping for counterplay here. And in the moment, it did feel like I had some counterplay. I played b5, going for c4, potentially knight d3, but white's not only up material, white has the pressure and initiative in the position. My light squares are really weak. Played c4, and my opponent very correctly took on e5. I took back with queen, hoping for this ending, takes, and black would be fine. That didn't happen. Queen d1 was played, and even though we returned to material equality, the engine actually gives force mate in 13 for white. After queen d5, my king is naked, and yeah, I had 30 seconds left. Time control was 15 plus 10, so there was a 10-second increment, but that was not going to save me in this position. And I went down the first round. I let my opponent checkmate me to give him the satisfaction. So it's a tough start. I think the opening prep worked nicely, but I just didn't fully understand what I should have done in this exact moment. Play g5. Maybe it would have been a different outcome if I found this move. So it was a valuable lesson to take away. And let's move on to game 2. Round 2. I was playing the white pieces against Grandmaster Sergey Erenburg. And I'm debating whether to spoil things. I'll just go ahead and say this was my by far best game of the day. I played, I think, 96% accuracy according to chess.com. And I'm just going to zoom through. It was a London opening. Not the most exciting line. This early trade on d4. I got my typical setup. But it's a line that I felt very comfortable with. And I knew pretty much all the standard plans. And meanwhile, my opponent really didn't quite know what to do. And my middle game plan was to basically establish a knight on c5 and play a5, ensure black can't play pawn b6 and get some nice positional bind. And this is very reminiscent of what Ding did to defeat Nepo in the World Championship game where he played the London opening. And very typical just idea in the structure can come from a Queen's Gambit or Caro-Kann as well. But yeah, eventually I do get my knight to c5, and my opponent was pretty much without a plan. Like, he placed his pieces in such a way to target c3, but c3 is very, very safe. And then the focus shifted to the king side. I put my bishop to target potentially the h7 pawn, brought my queen in, brought my rook to the e file, And yeah, eventually we traded on c5. This gave me the half-open b file, rook d7. So my opponent did have one target, this a pawn, a5 pawn, which is undefended. I decided to just focus on the king side, played rook f3, threatening to take and then take. So h6 was played. And in this position, I was trying to keep the attack going. And I played what the engine says is a mistake, but I thought it was a very strong move in the moment, pawn g4. And the reason why the engine says this is a mistake is because at this precise moment, black can take on a5. Now, my opponent didn't do that, and I think this is a very inhuman move to play. I was going to play g5 and just carry through with my attack, like takes. The pawn on c3 is not takeable because bishop h7 would win the queen. Oh, but it is! Okay, we both miss this. Takes, bishop h7, knight takes. My queen's hit on g5. Ah, so that's why it works for black. Okay, we both missed it. Just to point out, my opponent was already getting low on time, had a nice time advantage. Thanks to the opening. Opponent played knight h7, which is a blunder. And then after the queen trade, it returns to being very positional. I put my rooks towards the b file, starting with rook b1, and then, yeah, I get my other rook eventually to b2. And now black has this very weak pawn, backward pawn on b7 that both rooks have to babysit. And then going forward, I keep improving. I may be looking to play bishop to a4. Opponent is shuffling. At this point, I have over 5 minutes. My opponent has less than 30 seconds. And yeah, then e5 was played. My opponent basically succumbed to the pressure. And going forward, takes. I was very happy with the conversion. I think according to the engine, this was all clean. Play this move c6 to eventually win the a6 pawn. Takes, rook b7, and then I was very happy with my next move too, because I was close to taking on c6, but I played the move rook to b6. And this led into an interesting endgame after takes, knight d7, b7, knight b8. And it's equal material. We both have a minor piece and 5 pawns, but black's knight is completely stuck on b8, guarding the c6 pawn, and eventually the game will be determined on the king side. So we'll see how white wins here. Bring my king in, and then essentially break through. h4 was a nice move, temporary pawn sacrifice, but after takes g5, I now have 2 passed pawns on opposite flanks, and yeah, black is spread thin. Play g6, bring my king in, have my bishop defend the g pawn, and then yeah, engine says some of these moves are inaccurate, but it's already losing for black. There's a nice finish here, bishop f5, attacking the knight. A tree was played, I take the knight, we both queen, but I queen first, so I deliver a check. And my opponent resigned, not letting me checkmate him, but if king takes g6, bishop f5 is checkmate. So this was my first win in the World Championship, the World Rapid Championship. I was honestly pretty relieved to at least get on the scoreboard and not have a day where I lose all 5 games. And it was a very clean game too. I will say that right after this game, I was pulled into the fair play office to be more thoroughly checked. I think it's just like random screenings. I'm not sure if they like saw my accuracy here, but they scanned me with their like 2 different scanners. But I was okay with it. I came back clean on everything, and they gave me coffee too, so that was nice. And I didn't mention it, but during this game, they had some issue with like the door near the playing hall. It kept opening because fans kept coming in, and it was freezing cold throughout the game. And I was shivering, just constantly shaking the whole game, even with my sports jacket on. So yeah, it was not the most comfortable setting to play, but Thankfully, it didn't really affect my chess. And then after this game, I was interviewed on the FIDE broadcast with Charlize, and then also the Take broadcast with Levi Rosman, Gotham Chess. So I don't know if I'll be able to like maybe integrate those interviews in this video, see how much energy I have to edit this later.
We're here at the end of round 2 with Eric Rosen. Eric, how has your tournament been so far here in New York?
It's been good. I lost to Volokitin in the first round, but I just won my my second round game against Erenburg, so happy to get 1 point. Yeah.
I know we spoke a bit in Singapore. You're coming in here as an underdog. How does it feel to be in this hall with so many great players, including yourself?
It's kind of surreal. I've never played a tournament this strong in person with so many of the top GMs, so I'm just grateful to be here.
And I saw that you had some training practice against Caruana before coming here at St. Louis. Do you think that that has prepared you for the event?
Yeah. We both played a local Blitz tournament at the St. Louis Chess Club, and I managed to beat him 1 game. So I think that helped my confidence a little bit. So hopefully I can get some upsets in this event as well.
Final question, what do you love most about playing here in New York at this amazing tournament?
The food. The food options have been plentiful. Had really good Thai food and Japanese food yesterday. Had Joe in the juice this morning. So it's nice to have a lot of options nearby.
Okay. Actually, final question. What is the goal you've set for yourself for these 2 events in Rapid and Blitz? What will make you happy at the end of the day? You know, you played well, you played your heart out. What goal is there?
I think I just want to play a game that's recapped on the Gotham Chess channel or the Agadmato channel. If that happens, I'll be happy.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Eric, and good luck.
Thank you.
I also want to mention that my Twitch channel was live for the whole round today and will be live for all the rest of the rounds of the tournament. Big shout out to WIM Jesse February, who took over my Twitch channel. And I did call in a few times throughout the day today, but not after this round because I was pulled in so many different directions. So, okay, that's my first 2 games. I'm now 1 out of 2 going into round 3. And this game I'm playing Jonas Bjerre, another Grandmaster. And actually all my opponents today were Grandmasters. So I achieved my goal of not playing any lower rated players. But let's go through this game. I'm probably going to go through this quicker because I'm getting tired. This was a slightly exotic opening, bishop c4. We got into some kind of typical Sicilian position, maybe a bit reminiscent of my first round game. Trade on f3. And I wanted to play knight e5 here, but there's bishop e5 check. So I just develop nothing so crazy. Play knight d4, forcing queen d1. I think for this game, I just want to get to the key moment. Some middle game maneuvering. Wanted to play b5. Opponent plays a5. And then I was trying to target the a-pawn, but after knight d1, the queen defends the a-pawn. And then going forward, everything was pretty smooth. Engine gives close to equal. I take on c4. And then the critical moment is coming up after knight b6. In this position, I just played a little bit carelessly. I still had 5.5 minutes, so enough time. But I played a move here, which I thought was super solid, very safe. But I just completely missed white's idea. Queen d6. Engine says this is dubious. I would say this is maybe the biggest blunder of the game. What I should have done was just take, and maybe white's still slightly better, but should be closer to equal, I would think. The problem with queen d6 is after takes, rook e5 happens, and I can't defend my d-pawn. And that was sad. I was still feeling okay here, though, because it felt like I'll have compensation. And even though I'm down a pawn, there's a lot to play for. My knight's well placed. This knight, even though it's an outpost, it's a little bit out of play on the queen side. And then going forward, I got very close to equalizing. Yeah, white played g4, kind of exposing the king. I gave this check. Got my knight back to the center. And then coming up, There was a moment. Okay, the engine says white's close to winning. But yeah, we got to a moment here where I didn't play the right move. If I play the right move, then maybe the position's savable. But I blundered here with a very natural looking move, queen g4 check. The move I should have played was knight to d5. Save the knight first. Allow queen e8. This is why I didn't play knight d5. It looks so scary. My king has to go to h7, and f7's hanging. But if white takes it, then I'm going to have perpetual. I can take on d3, I can play queen g1, and the king's not escaping my checks. So this was a bit of a miss. I play queen g4, and the problem now is both of white's pawns are defended. My knight's attacked, and I just can't coordinate well enough with my queen and my knight. I went for this check, but then, yeah, if I trade queens, it's a losing ending. I played knight h2, kind of the Hail Mary. But yeah, my knight went bye-bye. I was still trying for perpetual check. In the moment, I thought maybe there's still chances to give perpet, but eventually the king slides away. In this position, I don't have any checks. All these squares are controlled. Knight's defended. And yeah, the king runs to the queen side, finds safety. And my opponent actually played a nice move to finish the game. In this position, my opponent played queen h8 and said, "Oh no, my queen." But after takes, I said, "Oh no, my queen," and I resigned. So that was round 3. Tough game. Really just one mistake in the middle game, maybe some inaccuracies in the middle game too. But I wasn't too disappointed. My opponent played really well. And let's move on to round 4. Round 4, I'm playing a big name streamer, one of the top blitz players on chess.com, Minh. We've played a bunch of matches in the past on chess.com. He is, yeah, he's very strong in rapid and blitz formats. And coming into this game, I knew I didn't want to play a London against him because his usual line against a London is kind of annoying. So I played e4. I played e4, right? Yeah, okay. Make sure the moves are working. And my strategy for this game was to play the most boring opening possible, the 4 knights Scotch. And I just wanted to play something solid and provoke him to maybe play something a little bit offbeat or dubious. And that's exactly what happened, and then we got a very interesting fight. He played bishop to b4, already a sideline, this is playable. Of course, the main move is pawn takes pawn. Now, I wasn't specifically prepared for this, but I played what I knew as the main line. Knight takes on e5, queen e7, queen d3. And then he played a move which I didn't know is a move here, but apparently it's playable. Knight takes d4, temporarily sacking the knight, but playing c5 and winning back the piece. And at this point, I'm out of my prep. According to theory, I should play queen e3. I played queen d3 because there's other lines where the queen goes to d3, but yeah, this is maybe slightly inaccurate. Black wins back the knight, and then we get a position where I expand the center. He concedes the bishop pair, and then castles. I play bishop e2. He plants his knight on e4, and I win a pawn. And going forward from here, next several moves, he's trying to get compensation, and I'm trying to just get my king safe and not blunder anything. And I pretty much accomplished my goal. I castled, I avoid blundering my queen. He tries to win back the pawn, but I have this move bishop d3. And then we get to an endgame where I'm actually feeling pretty comfortable. Like, even though he has this active rook, he's still down a pawn. And after queen c3, I attack and attack. And after takes, I'm still up a pawn. And even though he has a d-file, I thought it's a position I should definitely not lose. And going forward, everything seemed to be under control. I did have the big time advantage for most of this game. He took a long time in the early stages. And zooming through, I make loop for my king. To be honest though, I was really nervous when I got this position because I know he's such a tricky player and he swindled me so many times in the past in online games. So I think there is some psychological warfare happening with what he's done to me in the past. He played b4 here. Engine says this is a blunder. But why? It says queen b5 is best. I played g4. Yeah, it's definitely not the most accurate play in time trouble. Going forward, yeah, at some point I thought maybe he's gonna checkmate me, but I kept my queen close to my king. And then at some point, I get this e6 move in. I put my king on h3. He doesn't have any checks. I'm threatening pawn e7. He takes, I take, and then he plays rook c8, which apparently is a big mistake according to the engine. Engine says rook t1 was best to threaten rook t3. But after rook c8, I get a winning position, e7, queen d5, and I have my queen supporting the e-pawn. Black doesn't have any checks. Engine says plus almost 3 in white's favor. But it's still not easy to win. And at this point, I have 20 seconds left, and we move around for a bit. I did not want to repeat moves. We get to this position, and if I had like a little bit more time, I think I would have found the winning move. But I didn't play it at queen e4, missing a huge opportunity. The winning move I think is hard to find with 13 seconds left. Would have been rook to e6. Essentially putting black in zugzwang. The pawn can't be taken because queen d8 wins the rook. And if the queen moves anywhere, then there's going to be discovered checks. I'll win the queen. And if the king moves, let's say either to h7 or h8, I can take. And then I'm winning a queen. If king g8 back, I have rook h8. So this would have been a really nice finish if I found this. Black is in complete zugzwang. Every move loses a queen or the rook or eventually gets mated. But what happened in the game was pretty tragic for me because in a couple of moves, I completely plunder in this position. I saw this thing and I don't even know what I was thinking. I just didn't see this thing. I played rook f2. Terrible move, allowing queen takes g4 check. And at this point, I thought I was going to lose the game because after queen h4, I'm losing my baby on e7. But thankfully, after queen takes e7, we trade. It's a rook ending. I'm only down a pawn, and it's simple enough where I'm able to create a fortress. We played for almost 30 more moves. I'm just going to zoom through. He tried to trick me, but there's really no tricks in the position. His rook is always tied down to the b pawn. And yeah, just going forward here. The game did end in a draw. He did play this move, g5. I don't know why, but it's still a draw. And yeah, he actually offered me a draw on his time. And I wasn't sure what to do because usually the correct way of offering a draw is to make a move, offer the draw, hit the clock. So when he offered me a draw, I just didn't respond to him. His time was ticking. And then he played his move and then I accepted his draw. So anyway, that was round 4. It was a nice result on paper, drawing Minh Lei, rapid and blitz specialist, but I did have kind of a bad feeling given that I was just a move away from winning this game. But what to do? Coming into round 5, I had 1.5 points. And my last opponent for the day was Harsha. I don't want to hurt myself pronouncing his last name. But I will say, I actually trained with Harsha a little bit a few days ago. He's based in St. Louis. He studies and attends Webster University, which is where I graduated from. And I don't live too far away from there in St. Louis. So we played some training games, or maybe one training game. at the Webster University training a few days ago. We also did some puzzle solving as a team, and he was by far the best puzzle solver out of like everyone in the room. There was one worksheet where there was 4 very difficult problems that nobody got all correct except for Harsha. So that was slightly intimidating coming into this game. But it was a really, really interesting game. Probably a lot to talk about in this game, but again, I'll try and keep it as brief as I can. We play the Queen's Gambit Declined Exchange variation. This is all theory for me. I played Bishop e6, and the thought crossed my mind that maybe he watched my most recent YouTube video where I played Fabiano in our second game, and this is the exact position I had against Fabiano. And the best move here is knight e5. I thought maybe, okay, there's a chance he saw the game or maybe would have prepared this, but he didn't. He castled, which is still fine, but I don't think it's the most challenging line. I played knight d7, and yeah, this is still my comfort zone. But we got this very positional structure. I went for this queenside expansion, kind of reminiscent to my second round game with reverse colors. I had dreams of putting my knight on c4, but the difference here is white hasn't committed to a3. So if I ever go for this, there's b3. First I start with knight g4 here, and then I play g5, a prophylactic move, preventing knight f4, also reminiscent of my first round game, where I should have played g5 as a prophylactic move. So that was in my mind in this moment. Now going forward, he plays b3, so the a file opens. I'm a little bit tied down to this backward pawn on c6. And yeah, I don't want to get too far into the weeds. I should have played bishop f5 and trade off my bad bishop for his good bishop. I regretted playing knight f8, allowing this move knight c3. And then at some point he was like clearly better according to the engine, but it's still tricky to assess the best way forward. And I was still holding everything together. And he was also getting pretty low on time. Like he now had less than a minute. I had over 4 minutes. But the position was still like very tricky to play. We were both trying to figure out what our plans should be. He repeated, I repeated, but he wanted to play for a win. He played queen d2. I play h5. I'm trying to break through on the king side, given most of my pieces are on the side. And then at some point, there was a lot of liquidation. Yeah, starting with f4. And this prompted a pretty massive series of trades. We trade pawns, we trade knights, we trade queens. And then we're left in this endgame where I'm still worse because I have this bad structure, bad bishop, but maybe it's holdable. We trade rooks, and then, yeah, he clamps down on the queen side. So I'm still a little bit worse, but I still liked my chances to hold on. But now it's just a time scramble. We both have less than 30 seconds. And yeah, going forward, I just want to get to the key moment. He played well to put a lot of pressure, like optimize his knight, optimize his bishop, got his bishop in, trying to attack me from behind. And then eventually, yeah, we trade bishops. I play king e6, and he wins my pawn. He's winning my pawn on c6. But I get some counterplay, have this move pawn h4. He takes, I take. And so many pawns are coming off the board. It's knight in 2 versus knight in 3. And you can see by the eval bar, this is objectively drawn. But then we got to this position, and there's only one drawing move in this position for black after knight takes b5. I challenge anyone watching this video to find the best move and the only drawing move for black. And unfortunately for me, I didn't find it. I think there's probably a lot of people watching that would just instinctively take the pawn, that's what I did, and this is just losing the game. What I should have realized is this pawn's not going anywhere next move. I should have realized that white wants to play this and guide the way for that pawn, and the only drawing move would have been king to f6. Preventing king g5. Black is guaranteed to win b4 next move. This could even be pre-moved. And the nice thing is after knight c7 takes, the knight defends a pawn. If king f4, knight d3, and this is just a draw. Because yeah, my knight will always defend the pawn, and there's no way for white to make progress on the king side. So unfortunately, I didn't find it. I took, and then I lost a painful death. What to do? Yeah, there's no saving this. My knight actually got trapped on the king side. All these squares are controlled. Oh no, my knight. And I resign in this position. So that was my day. Tough to lose this final game where I did have good chance to draw, but my opponent played well. It's the nature of rapid chess too in these time scramble situations. So I finished the day with 1.5 out of 5. Yeah, what more to say? There are 4 more games tomorrow. Be sure to tune in on my Twitch channel with commentary from Jesse February, also the official FIDE broadcast. There's a ton of other channels covering this, so maybe just have a bunch of tabs open to follow all the action. And all the games are on DGT, so you can watch the games on chess.com or Lichess. Been using Lichess for this video. Anything more to say before I wrap up the video? I don't think so. I think it's time to get some sleep. Thanks for watching, and good night.